we playing at tomorrow?
Welcome into the Sports Objective, home of 50 Pirates in 50 Days, with the unofficial podcast of the Pirates of Bubba. Every day that we go on and we're doing this series, you get better and better, man. You got another great Pirate here tonight. Very excited about who you have on.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And when you take a look at the East Carolina defensive line this year, we have a lot of talent, but a lot of guys that don't have much experience. Tonight we're catching up with a guy who played defensive tackle for the Pirates 1997 to 2001. Welcome into the show, Ty Hunt.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
No doubt. Appreciate you coming on. Obviously, Pirates are very special to us. And, Ty, we'll talk about your career. One of the things that we always know you hear about football is a game of fundamentals, and the game is won in the trenches on the offensive line and defensive line of those sides of football. And the great thing about Mike Houston, he's building up the program. He's doing a good job at depth. We had talent last year, first string on the D line. That's your position, so that's why I brought it up. But after that, it was kind of thin. I'm being nice because we're all Pirates. But he's done a nice job with. We have the youth, we have talent. They just don't have the experience. I know there is some graduate, I think, transfers, but anyway, very excited to see the program. I want to get your thoughts. I remember. Bubba, I told you when we first met a couple years ago, Coach Logan, one of my favorite sayings that he said, and obviously that being your coach, Ty, that's why I'm bringing it up. He said, if defensive linemen were, what was it, Bubba, that they would grow on trees. They don't grow on trees for defensive linemen. Yeah. He wished they did, but they don't grow on trees.
One of the things he said is that God certainly did not make enough defensive linemen. And when you find them, even if they may not be exactly the way you want them to be, size-wise and that kind of thing, if you see a guy that has the potential with the defensive line, you better sign him.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so as far as let's talk about your time with the Pirates. Obviously, you come in a great era of Pirate football in the 90s, the latter part of the 90s, but they're part of I'm a huge fan of Coach Steve Logan. Everybody knows that. I don't have to go on and on about that, but I love the guy. I still love the guy, and one of the best ever coaches in college football, and certainly the all-time winningest coach. With Bubba corrected me the other night, 69 wins in 10 years. But let's talk about your time. How did you become a Pirate? Because that's always important for us to know, and for the fans, for Pirate Nation that's one of the things that we want to do. Objective of our podcast is give the history of Pirate football and our sports in ECU.
Well, initially, of course, being recruited by Coach Paul Jett, who's the recruiting coach in our area. Coach Jett, if you know him, man, he's just a loving guy, real smooth talking, real laid back, not too much gets him upset. And one day he told me, he said, "Hey Ty, I'm gonna bring Coach Logan to come meet you one day because we really want you to be a Pirate." And so I never forget, one day I was in class and I was pulled out of class and by my coach, my high school coach at the time, and Coach Jett was standing there, and I saw this little man standing there with dark hair, and Coach Jett said, "Hey Ty, this is Coach Logan at East Carolina," and I stuck my hand out to shake his hand, and he paused for a second. He looked me up and down like I was like a big sandwich or something. No, he kind of gave me this look like this and looked at me. He said, "Son," and he stuck his hand out and shook my hand finally. He said, "Son, you're going to be a Pirate." And that's kind of how it all got started.
I love his confidence. What sold you? We know how great Pirate Nation is, and we know how great ECU and Greenville is. What sold you on the program? Why did you want to become a Pirate?
Home. It felt like home. When I took my initial visit, I was hosted by Norris McCleary. My family came down, and we had a great time. And I'm from a little small town, Hickory, North Carolina, and it just felt like home. And it's not, Greenville. People who don't know about Greenville, North Carolina, everybody I speak to that's not from the area, they think Greenville is just in South Carolina. I'm like, no, there's a Greenville, North Carolina, and it just felt like home. That everyone, it was just so nice and so loving, and it was just a natural fit.
And during those years, and like Dave was kind of alluding to, from 94 to 96, and that was one of the best 3-year runs in the history of East Carolina football, right there with some of the years under a guy who did a lot of great things in Hickory at Lenore Ryan, Clarence Stasevich, way back in the 60s, and then also the success that Coach Dye had in the 70s. But that 3-year run from 94 to 96, as you were a Hickory Red Tornado, we were winning 8 ball games a year. So there was certainly a lot of appeal with the success on the field that the Pirates were having.
Yeah, I was familiar with the purple and gold. I had seen East Carolina play before when I really started, was kind of digging in about football, because at that time I was really being recruited to play a lot of basketball too, by a few big schools, and I was still kind of in that in-between stage. But as the letters kept pouring in, I noticed that most of them were for Division I schools to play football. And I had a coach of mine that told me, he said, son, listen, being 6'5", playing basketball, you're going to come a dime a dozen. But being 6'5", you can run down the quarterback, you're a high commodity. So, I guess that kind of was what sealed the deal. But like I said, I've seen East Carolina play before on TV before then. I really wasn't that familiar with the program. But my aunt is from she lives in Kinston at the time. So, of course, being in the area, I always seen the purple and gold, in Kinston and stuff. So I'd go to Camp Kinston, for the summer and stay with my aunt. And, that's kind of when I got first hip to the purple and gold.
And you talk about very quickly, Dave, just following up, he's talking about your time as a basketball player. Did you get any offers from smaller schools, or were you totally committed to football?
No, I wasn't. I was pretty much being recruited by a lot of Division I, 1A, 2A schools, like Appalachian State recruited me to play football and basketball. I recruited to play at Western Carolina. I got recruited to play for the Dayton Flyers, UNC Wilmington basketball. So, a few different schools right there. I think probably the biggest school for basketball recruiting wise was probably Dayton, probably the Dayton Flyers.
Yeah, they're doing all right now.
Yeah,
they've got a good program. Ty, I'm very excited that you obviously picked the Pirates, and certainly with the one good thing about that time period with Coach Logan certainly was the style of play. What about, we know about the offensive side of the ball, but I don't think that people give Coach Logan and his staff, some of the years I know we're better than others. I get it, but what about the defensive side of the ball? You guys were monsters. That's the only thing that comes to mind, but that's the word that when I think about, I'm a defensive guy. I love defense. So when you guys were on the line, that's what I think about as monsters.
Monsters, that's a good description, because I'm going to tell you, man, I learned from some of the best. When I tell you some of the best, we're talking Rod Coleman, Brian Johnson, Travis Darden, Terrell Williams, Norris McCleary, Toma McMillan. I learned from some of the best. When you talk about some dogs, those guys were some dogs. And when you go back and watch the tape, and a lot of times, like I said, some games were tough and some games we got beat here and there. But when you cut the tape on and you go back and watch some of those films, you saw some grown men in there playing.
Absolutely. The acquisition of defensive linemen during those years was very much not necessarily that it came together the same way, but in, I guess, 2007 to 2009, that defensive line that we had in 2009 when we won the second straight Conference USA title with the likes of Scotty Robinson, C.J. Wilson, Linville Joseph, who's still playing in the league with the LA Chargers, about said San Diego Chargers, and then also Jay Ross, who's a police officer down in Wilmington now.
Okay, outstanding.
Yeah, the line though is definitely great as far as obviously the offensive side of the ball to run the ball, but obviously the defensive line. That's one of the things that Bubba, I was going to bring you in back with this. One of the things I was excited about last year in 2019. And I wanted to bring you in, Ty, obviously being a defensive lineman. I felt like one of the things that we didn't do well under the Mo era was getting pressure on the ball, getting pressure on the quarterback. And that was very frustrating. I'm sitting there going, I mean, are we going to pressure the guy? I mean, he has all day long. I mean, even the average quarterback can kill us. But what is your take there on how important is to get pressure on the quarterback and have those TFLs, man? I love that. That's one of my favorite parts of the game.
Well, it's pressure being defensive lineman, pressure is everything, and a lot of times, even if you're not getting pressure, one thing we're always taught, try to be in the passing lane to bat the ball down. That's as good as a TFL. So, but pressure is everything. But, my last 2 years, we changed defenses. We went from a multiple 50 to a 3-4. And the 3-4, for me, it was tough, because I wasn't quite as big a frame as some of like the Norris McClearys and the Brian Johnsons. Those guys, 6'6",
dudes.
Yeah, 3 and some change. And I was probably pushing around about right at 285, but still, I mean, it was tough in there. Then we getting double teamed and they slide protecting, chipping you. So it's tough to get pressure with just 3. But one thing I can say is Coach Rose, who was our defensive coordinator, later on, man, he had some very good blitzes dialed up. We show a lot of different things, and we're able to get some pressure at times. But yeah, defensive lineman is crucial. That's part of the job down there.
No doubt, Bubba. That very thing, though. Didn't you think that last year there was bright spots? And I'm not sure how close you followed the program still, Ty, but last year there was bright spots of where we were finally getting some. Well, you look at Nate Harvey. You see a lot of those guys that certainly
2 years ago.
2 years ago, 2018. That's right. But I meant but the fact that's the first. Actually, that was going to mention the very fact of that was the first year under Montgomery that we finally saw anything of that. Then that last year, it seemed to be more instead of an individual effort, it was more of a collaborative effort. Well, more of a team instead of like having a guy like him that was such a diamond in the rough. You put him from on the offensive side of the ball to put him on. He was such a mismatch. What about as far as your team? How you guys? One of the great things I always talk about the Logan era. It seemed like the players were really happy, and you were like, I hate to use the term brothers because that's overused, but you guys were like so tight.
Yeah, we were, and we still are. This is probably the third time I've said Norris McCleary, but Norris and I, he was the first one that I came into contact with, being that he was my guy who had me on my official visit. But to this day, Norris and I, we hunt together. We're avid hunters, deer hunt, rabbit hunt. And, so we go back and forth on each other's properties. We exchange hunts. And so we're still tight to this day. I still contact with, Terrell Williams and Travis Darden and those guys, and Jay Warren Blair and a lot of those guys. And the main Duckett, who's also a police officer in Charlotte. Right. I'm a police officer in Atlanta. So, I guess it's kind of a natural thing after football. I guess we all became police officers. But
during the Logan era, there's a lot of police officers for sure. Another guy that I love during that era, the linebacker Jeff Carr, good old Wood. I'll tell you, there's so many. Pernell Griffin. I mean, you could go. There's like between the offensive and defensive side of the ball during that time. It's just like there's hit after hit after hit, meaning. Like in the music business, there's just so many great players. I'm not name dropping, but it just seems like you guys were not only talented, but it was great that you guys had that chip on your shoulder and that you reminded folks that we may be East Carolina. And if you're going to call us Eastern North Carolina, then that's more punishment.
I agree. You brought up some great names. Jeff Carr, what can't you say about the guy? He is just sideline to sideline. 100 miles an hour every play. I've never seen Jeff take a play off. He was 100 miles an hour. That's what he did. And Pernell Griffin, man, he's like my brother from another mother. He that's my guy. I was in his wedding, so that's my guy. So but like you said, we had so many guys. Even on the back end, we had Kevin Monroe, Chris Satterfield, Forrest Foster. It was so many guys. We just from front to back, side to side, just talent, just buku talent.
And Ty, and not to get off on a tangent, but since you brought up Jeff Carr, I remember that 1999 game, game 2 of that season at home against Duke, when he nearly took, or maybe he did take Spencer Romine out of the game. He was on him all day, and then I think he finally knocked him out of the ball game there fairly late in the second half.
Yeah, Jeff, man, that guy, man, I tell you, I've seen some hits, spring ball. I'll never forget one collision he had with a tight end we had, an infamous tight end we had, who was very, very good, who actually was a defensive lineman before becoming a tight end, was Buck Collins. And
yeah.
And I don't know if you remember Buck, but Buck was a big fella. And he and Jeff met full speed. And I mean, literally we were actually inside the stadium. And you can hear the collision, man. I mean, you probably can hear that collision on 5th and Main, man. I mean, it sounded like a car wreck. And both of those guys were just slinging snot and shaking their head and trying to get up. And man, I tell you, man, and they both of them got back up, back to the huddle. And let's do it again. I mean, but that's just kind of the kind of attitude of the players that we have on that team.
And Ty, hey Bubba, you remember his nickname being Wood because he brings the wood to you. I'll never forget that. One of my favorite nicknames of all time for a Pirate player. But all of you were just so. I think even when you're talking about a guy like you, 6'5", a D lineman, the athleticism that you guys had, the physicality that you guys had. It's a lot of the if you were making a pie or in the main ingredients, of what it is to be a football player. And I think that's one of the things we have missing. And I'm really happy for Mike Houston. Those guys now, Bubba, I'm so fired up whenever we have these press conferences with Mike Houston, because you can just feel it that those guys are hungry. They're tired of going 3-9. They're tired of being 3-9, 4-8. The last 4 years we've had, 4 wins last year is the most we've had, and since 2015, it seems like an eternity ago that we've had a winning season. And these guys now have all bought in. They're ready to go. And what was it? What was it, Bubba? That I don't know when it'll be rocking. When Coach Houston said at his press conference when he took the job, but he had to have mercy on the basically paraphrasing, have mercy on the opponents that come in here. And that was like, wow, that's back to almost like Logan days, with the guys you had and with Coach Connors, and all with the strength and conditioning. All the position coaches you guys had were phenomenal, in my opinion. And that's why that translated to wins on the field.
I agree. I totally agree. Part of it, you have to have a dog inside of you. And that's one thing, that I talk to young guys. I get a chance to talk to young guys sometimes. And I explain to them, I say, especially playing defensive line and just football in itself. If the dog, if it isn't in you, you can't create it. Either you have it or you don't. And obviously now the coach, he's finding guys that have the dog in them. And when it's in there, man, it's going to come out of there. But yeah, man, I tell you, it's so tough. You're talking about defensive line and, just having that attitude and that spark. It's inside of you, and if you don't have it, you're going to stay on the sideline. You're going to watch most of the time.
And Ty, you're talking about some of the athleticism of those guys, or actually maybe it was you, Dave, but Norris McCleary. I know you've brought him up a couple times already, but the other day I came across some old highlights. Maybe it was one of the old games, but they were showing highlights of another game, and I think it was that '99 game up at Army when we improved to 5-0. And Norris, I believe it was, had a big scoop and score and ran it at least 40 or 50 yards, maybe more.
Yeah, he did. Big fella was rumbling. I think he and Purnell was with the ball.
Yeah.
He finally picked it up and took it on to the house.
And you referenced the main ducket, or Chico Dusty, I should say, as he goes by on Facebook.
Yeah.
He says Freaky Ty.
I see it. That's my
and then also one of your other former teammates, Arnie Powell, quarterback and wide receiver, tuned in.
Yes, sir. That's my buddy, man. That's another one of my good brothers too. In fact, I just went home to Hickory, North Carolina, to celebrate my grandmother's 91, 91st birthday, and wow. she asked about him. Does she remember them? Because I brought Arnie home with me for a spring break, and she remembered them. She said, "You tell my baby I still can make a good pie for him."
I'm sure she could. And speaking of Arnie, Bubba, we need to get him on for 50 Pirates in 50 days. I think we've reached out to him, right? Haven't we?
Yeah, but we've actually talked to Arnie as well as Norris McCleary. So hopefully we'll have those guys on. Hopefully we'll have those guys on real soon.
And Ty, you actually down there in the ATL, you've got some good football down your way.
Oh yes, man! I'll tell you, this place is, North Carolina. I think we're known mainly for football and basketball, but I think Georgia, we're known for football and baseball down here. And man, I tell you, the football here it's rich. It's rich. I mean, these kids. I mean, you see them. I mean, the Trevor Lawrences of the world, the Justin Fields of the world. I mean, everybody can't go to Georgia. Everybody can't go to Georgia Tech. So I mean, they have to go somewhere. I mean, this place is literally oozing football talent.
And Ty, what about Georgia State? A Pirate. As of right now, we still have them on the schedule, but certainly, I know Bubba. That's a road trip we would like to make because that's in your backyard. But that's a program that's really come on that probably people never would have imagined in a million years to pull for Georgia or Georgia Tech. But Georgia State's making a little run too.
They are, and as a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys probably know already, but Old Turner Field is now where they play football. And man, I don't know if you guys have seen it in person, but man, it's nice. It is.
Yeah. Last summer, my dad and I, we brought my son and my nephew down there for a couple of Braves games. And the day that we left to go home, we went over to the Old Turner Field, like you're saying. I think they're just calling it Georgia State Football Stadium now. That they don't have a name for it yet, but I'm sure still looking for a donor for that. But they've done a nice job with it. We were able to check it out what we could from the outside, but it was locked up that day. And a coach probably would have taken us around, but they had some recruits there, and they were walking the recruits through.
Yeah, definitely. They said they spent some money in that place. I know. Just on the other side of there, they built their outdoor facilities, like a couple of turf fields or whatever. But it's nice, man. They've come a long way, and they're playing some good football. I used to work an extra job at Bank of America. And I just hear a lot of guys come through. I guess mom and dad send them a few bucks. They come to the bank and pull it out. And they got some good sized fellas. I just talked to a few of them, and good kids. But that program is they're on the uptick.
And right across the parking lot, Dave, when you go there to the former Turner Field, it brings back so many memories. It's been gone for, I guess, a couple decades, nearly three decades now. But the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium.
That was, as a matter of fact, I mentioned a few times already on the podcast, the very last football game was the Peach Bowl with the Pirates. So what a way to send out the stadium, especially if you're a Pirate fan. What a magical ride that day. I didn't have a lot to cheer about for a few quarters, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I tell you what, I think I've told the story, but if I haven't, I'll tell it again. But we literally were in Charlotte, my best friend and I, and he had tickets his uncle gave. And we were unfortunately in the state section. I know there's Wolfpackers out there watching, but anyway, we had to ride down in a small BMW, and me and my best friend are not small guys. That was the most uncomfortable ride. But I tell you one thing, coming back home, it felt so good. It didn't hurt quite as bad as it did going down.
I'm sure.
The backseat of a BMW. Are you kidding me?
I'm sure. Backseat of a BMW, and especially being an East Carolina alum, I'm sure the drinks were flowing.
Yeah, I tell you what, I had a lot to celebrate. That I still could see that far end where I was, the far end that they said, and then Jeff Charles, of course, I didn't hear the broadcast radio because I was inside the stadium. But I had state fans that were mad that that the coach Sheridan was going for that field goal, and I'm going, why is he kicking a field goal? This makes no sense. Like, why would he go for it? And the people right beside me are like, why is he kicking a field goal? And it was just kind of an odd moment that the fans from both teams were questioning the coach of like, why are you trying to tie the game? You need to, and especially the state fans, they were just like, oh my, they wanted to be East Carolina. It's funny how when they, it's funny how they act like it's not a big game, but yet when that game was on the line, that was a really big game all of a sudden.
I don't know why they try to play that game. They know good and well that anytime we see each other, I don't care who it is in North Carolina, it's personal. Wake Forest, Duke, Carolina, NC State, it's personal. They know that.
Yeah, and it's not a big game. That's why in 1997 and then also 2008 when they upset us, especially that 2008 game when we were ranked 15th and they beat us in overtime. So they try to act like it's not a big deal. Then why did they rush the field?
Right.
Very good point. That your time at the Pirates, as far as some of the games, the memorable games. I mean, during that time, I tell you what, one of the guys I absolutely love too is I love David Garrard. And having I mean, I remember I still to this day I think he's one of the best quarterbacks as far as his arm is concerned. I know he's a great guy. He's come on our podcast. So really, to be David Garrard, he doesn't. To me, I don't know. I don't know him personally, but it's a lot of you guys on that team. You see to be so down to earth. It's really awesome. And a lot of times you see people that you love and you admire and you respect as far as players, and then they're not what you think that they are. They're not nice guys.
Yeah, some people they think a little too high of themselves sometimes. But most of these people that you see us like, I'm a country boy, so it's a different way of how we deal with people, no matter how big you are, we're raised different. So even with Dave, I met Dave. I met Dave in '97, senior years of high school, and we played against each other in the East-West All-Stars. That's when I first came across Dave, and I never forget. We came in. It was some kind of function we were at together, and someone had pointed out, say, "Hey, that's the quarterback right there." And at that time, I don't know if you remember when Dave was a big fella. Dave was probably pushing about 75-ish, and at that time, we're in high school. We're all just a little over 200 pounds. And I'm looking at that, man. That's no way he's the quarterback. That dude's offensive lineman. And man, he cut a ball loose one time about 60 yards, and we're just like, yeah, he's the quarterback.
Yeah, Ty, it's funny you bring that up about David, because we had Dave on the podcast last summer, and he told the story. He was laughing about his arrival at East Carolina, and Coach Logan, he made him run in the heat of the day about lunchtime every day. He was making him run in one of the old garbage bag type pullovers.
Mm-hmm.
And just a sweatsuit, and he got down from, like you were saying, 275 or whatever he was, down to a lean 235, 240.
He worked hard. I tell you, he struggled a little bit with his weight, but I tell you, like I said, Coach Logan knew what to do, and man, but it was really up to Dave. Dave made the conscious decision to say, hey, you know what, it's time to get right. If I really want to compete at this level, I got to get right. He made the decision, and he did, and you saw it. I mean, you're talking about a guy, man. That I don't know if you guys remember that Southern Miss game. He shook off like eight defenders and still threw the ball like 60 yards off his back foot. I mean, that's some special stuff, and that's what landed him in the NFL and why he had a successful career in the NFL. I mean, that kind of stuff.
One of the plays that always sticks in my mind about David Garrard was his redshirt sophomore season down in Charlotte against West Virginia. That run that he had on the game-winning drive that set up the go-ahead touchdown, when it was about 25 or 30 yards, and he was weaving in and out on an option play to the right side. It was just, for some reason, that play, and I remember the commentator specifically saying, for a guy that's 240 or 45 pounds, whatever he was at that time, he moves extremely well.
I tell you, man, when you looked at Dave, and you saw him, man, he looked like he was like a chiseled piece of cement. I mean, it's just hard. I mean, when he lost all the weight, I had to say the baby fat. When the baby fat finally came off, and he got a grown man body. I mean, man, he was unbelievable.
And he told the stories about how not necessarily you. He didn't. I don't think he specified the players, but he said a bunch of you guys, especially the upperclassmen, when he came in 1997, were making those jokes. Are you really a quarterback? He said, man, you better go suit up and play tight end or tackle.
Yeah, Dave and I were classmates, so we came in together. So I was one of the quiet, shy ones over there, not saying too much, and kind of watching the upperclassmen kind of bully him a little bit.
Right. So go ahead, Dave.
No, just for the fact for me, Ty, I tell you what, I want to talk about certainly during that time. One of the things that's missing for us right now is bowl appearances. What about you guys? You guys had the bowl appearances, and I know that that's something that a lot of Pirate fans right now are just even more than that, as far as how bad they want to win a season and how bad they want to go to a bowl game.
I tell you, man, the bowls are pretty much that's the cap of the year. That's the cap. You always want to cap your season off with a bowl win. And our first one, of course, was the GMC Bowl. We played against TCU, Alabama. We played against LaDainian Tomlinson. And man, I tell you, that was a good game. We had our chances to win it, and we probably should have won that game. But then we went back the next year. I think, too, at that time, we hadn't played in the bowl game in several years. And I'm not going to say we didn't prepare like we were supposed to. I just think that maybe the moment was a little too big for us at the time. I don't know. But I know the second bowl game I got to play in, which was in Texas at the GalleryFurniture.com Bowl, we were ready. And you saw the results. It was a whole different team that came out. We came out from the gate and we slapped Texas Tech right in the mouth, right from the beginning.
Yeah, Ty, here several weeks ago we had a watch party for that 2000 GalleryFurniture.com Bowl, and Demaine Duckett, or Chico Dusty, if you will, was a part of that, and he was talking about just how brutal that old AstroTurf, the old carpet turf in the Astrodome was that night.
Man, I tell you, I would definitely say that AstroTurf in the Astrodome was probably one, and I would say two at the time was the Superdome. That was probably the worst when we played Tulane there. Oh man, that every time you hit the ground, you felt like you were hitting cement.
That's one of the worst. That's one of the worst stadiums.
And obviously times change, but one of the things we've asked some of you guys that we've had on from different eras is back 20 plus years ago, I guess almost exactly 20 years ago, in those 99, 2000, and 2001 bowl games, what type of stuff did you get besides a ring?
Man, we got a bunch of clothes, sweatsuits, shoes, hats. We got what else we get? We got a bunch of like autograph balls and stuff like that. You pass around to your teammates and give. And of course, the best part, your per diem that you get. That was always a good part. So yeah, we got a few little trinkets. So
you mentioned Tim Rose. I saw a video here recently, in the last few weeks, of Tim Rose, a pregame speech he gave at Division II, or I think it's maybe Division III, Ashland, up in Ohio, still coaching there in his mid-70s. And so talk about Coach Rose, and do you have a good Coach Rose story or two? Because I know a lot of times Pirate fans they got a kick out of that tan and the hair of Coach Rose.
Yeah, Coach Rose, man, I tell you, he was just, when he came in, he was the one that brought in the 3-4, to East Carolina. So we're making a bunch of changes, a lot of installations. So he didn't have a lot of time to really sit down and be your buddy and shake your hand and be your friend. The man had a job to do. He had to install a defense that we had never played before. He had to figure out who can play in what positions, because he had a particular style he liked the defense play, in a particular style of player he liked in certain positions. So at that time, myself, my natural position is defensive end. That's my natural position. My natural playing weight would probably been about 270-ish. Playing, head up on the tight end, like that. That's my natural thing. But then when he came in, we switched to 3-4. I had to switch to defensive tackle because he didn't like big linebackers. More fast, speedy guys. They can really can cover well. Because in that defense, it requires you to cover well. And so I had to gain a few more pounds. I had Coach Connors had to put a few more pounds on me, and get me right, and so I can play on the inside, take on that double team. But Coach Rose, I tell you, he's one of those guys, man. You'd run through a brick wall for him. If he asked you to, you run through a wall for him. The speeches he would give us, and if you can see me now, the hair standing up on my arms, just thinking about some of those speeches he would give, man. I mean, it was just, I never forget one of them. He gave to us before we played Army, and Forrest Foster. And it wasn't long before that he had just lost his mother, and he gave a speech to us, man. That man, I tell you, I don't think anybody in that locker room would have done anything to not win that game. And I tell you, man, he did some great things for us. He made us. He touched some areas of us that we didn't know we had. He dug out, and man, I tell you, he's just a good guy. And I had no complaints about Coach Rose. He always very personable, speaks to you, when he can, because he's always moving. I remember he got hit on the sideline in the TCU game. He messed his hip up, and nothing stopped him, man. He was right back in it. I mean, you thought it was down and out, and we saw him on the sideline sitting down, and next thing when we turn around, he's back on the sideline again. He's up coaching. So he just that mentality, and we took that from him.
I know Bubba Johnny Gardner had a crazy question. He says for Ty. Did you see that? I guess Bubba's frozen. Let's see if I can. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can put that up there. He said a crazy question for Ty was at both of the Mobile Bowl games. What did he think of the playing surface with TCU having Damian Tomlinson seem to have tall grass to cut down on our team's speed on both sides?
Yeah, that with us in that game too, they threw a lot of sand on the field. It was a lot of sand on the field. Yeah, a lot of sand. I think it had rained something, and they were trying to just, I guess, they try to get the dead stuff. And I remember one play, offensive lineman, he had threw some sand in my face trying to get it. I was like, man, it was. What? Oh yeah, man, it was bad. It was bad. those guys were, yeah, they were, yeah.
I can't imagine thinking about you guys during that time, how big and strong and fast and athletic, and like I was talking about the fight you guys had, and I can't imagine guys making those mistakes, especially when you get to the bottom of that pile. That's all I'm going to say. Anybody that plays football, you know what I'm talking about, the bottom of the pile. I would hate to think that you would do something that dumb, but hey, yeah, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening there. I mean, eye gouging, finger bending, groin pulling. There's a lot of stuff going on in there,
man. No doubt about it. I know that. Yeah, did I go back up again? Sorry about that.
Okay.
Back in again. But as far as your time, yeah, you were frozen. So while you were frozen, I put that up there to try to help with the show, keep the show going. That's all right. It's all good. Ty, as far as the current day with the Pirates, what do you like about the program? What do you know about Coach Mike Houston and some of the current players?
I haven't been keeping up with the Pirates as much as I should, and I should be ashamed of myself. But I have been doing a little research. I think the program is definitely on the uptick. From everything I've heard from you, and this is probably my second interview I've had in the last few weeks from some Pirate guys, and they've been filling me in on some different things about the program and about the coach. Of course, I don't know him personally, but from everything I've heard of him, it's a lot of remnants of Coach Logan, So I think with those remnants that you hear of Coach Logan, if those are things I'm hearing that's going on through there, these guys are gonna have a chance.
And one of the things I've always talked about with Coach C with you guys, but certainly with currently with Big John Williams in the weight room, the strength and conditioning coach. He's a mean son of a gun, and he's a really big dude. Actually, a Greenville native. I like him a lot, and that's one of the things I was going to ask you as far as a football player. People from the outside that have never done sports or anything may not understand when I mean this, but I'm sure there's probably not anybody non-sports related watching this. But when I see you guys were mean and dirty, that's what we need. We need these guys that, will keep going. Even, I mean, I know it sounds terrible to say, but after the whistle blows, like some of these, and then the tackling we had under the previous administration, they're doing an excellent job now. In practices, we talked a lot about it, but you play like you practice. I mean, you hear that all the time. There's a reason why that's a cliche. And for you guys, like, it was obvious that's one of the things that always impressed me with Coach Logan. I had a little inside of like working on his coach's show, radio show every week, but it just seemed like the man between he and the coaches, he had you guys well prepared. Those coaches were coaching you up, and you guys, it seemed like you guys knew there were times when I was watching those games back then, it looked like you guys knew the playbook of the other team better than they knew the playbook of their own team. I don't know. That's my opinion.
I can agree with that because we were well prepared. Installation of the game plan went in early. And like you said, we practiced like we played. So on Tuesdays, when we come that was everybody. Everybody knew when Tuesday come. You might see on the board full pads. We getting after it today, and especially when we play teams that did a lot of smash, so-called smash mouth football. So we play teams like Syracuse with a lot of counter trap counters, things like that. We knew it's gonna be one of them weeks. Everybody gonna be bruised up, So get your mind right. And but that's how it always was, Like I said, and we were always prepared. Nothing was. By the time we got to the field, I don't think anything surprised us.
That's a good thing. How many, as far as the back in your time, we talked about it with other players, but as far as the meeting time, I don't think I was telling somebody this. I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday. My days are running with all the stuff, my day job. But somebody was talking about college football and what we have. They keep asking me every single day, "Are we going to play?" I was like, "I don't know." And I said, if you think about it, these players are working their tails off in the classroom because you got to stay eligible. You look at all the time and effort they do throughout the year. I've saw that with my own eyes with a lot of players when I was in summer school, and they would be there with me, like taking classes. It's a year-round thing. The dedication, the devotion, the commitment, the blood, the sweat, the tears. I mean, can you give us an insight on, like, with you guys during that time? People don't understand that you're doing – it's more than – we show up at the game and we cheer hard for you guys for 3 or 4 hours, and that's our commitment to the program. More than that, but I mean, pretty much that's what we do as students and fans and alums. And then you got guys like yourself that are putting way more than 40 hours a week than, like, you would think, a full-time job.
I like to compare it to a movie. When you see a movie, you get to see the movie, but you didn't see the previous 3 months before it took to make the movie. Right. So that's how it was playing football. I mean, people didn't see, like, I had a bunch of friends that were, just regular students, and they would get upset because, the football players, we had to have the early classes so we can get to practice and get to the facility in the evening. So, we couldn't take late classes. So they would get upset because they couldn't get the classes. I'm like, listen, dude, at 4 in the morning while you're sleeping and counting the sheep jumping over your head, I'm busting my butt. I mean, you're talking about winter conditioning that, that goes summer, spring ball, summer ball. And like I said, there's no time off because, especially for me, I went to summer school every semester. So, because I knew that I had to get my body in a certain place. I didn't want to lose a step. So that helped me. Summer school and working in the summer helped me to stay ahead of the curve. So when it was my turn to play, I knew I'd be ready.
Yeah, how about the Ty? Speaking of conditioning, what about one thing that we hear from a lot of Logan Era players with Coach Connors is those was it 10 300s?
10 300s for a special team for the skilled guys, 8 300s for the combo guys, and 6 for defense, D line, O line. Let me tell you something. You talking about running 300s with 30 seconds rest in between. Tough.
Hey, Tom, what was the lineman's time? What did y'all have to make it under?
Bub, I forgot our time. I want to say it was about 60, maybe like 68, something like that. I forgot. I remember it was a very, very brisk pace. Let's say that.
In that 68 seconds, and that's like you were saying, when you only have 30 seconds in between, that 30 seconds there, a few 300s in becomes like 5 or 10 seconds, and you hear the coach blowing the whistle. You ain't no way that was 30 seconds.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, it's like literally as soon as you would cross the line, you would finish one. He'd be calling the times out. You cross the line, you bend over, you breathe, you take a sip of water. 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, again, man. It was tough, but I tell you, man, those were the things where it prepared us because our bodies hadn't been pushed like that before. So when you get to a game and you got a team that's running no huddle, I mean, you gotta go. And those were some of the things that prepared us. I mean, you think that now that was just one test we had. We had 110s. We had to run too. We had to run like 20 some odd 110s.
My God.
So it was
20. Oh my God. So that's basically 20 links. Like for those who don't know that, you're talking about the entire football field, right? Correct, including the end zone.
110 yards, 110s. Yes.
Yeah, one goal line to one in line.
I'm telling you, man, Coach Connors didn't play, man. But I tell you, I appreciate him because, like I said, it prepared us. It prepared us. And one thing we try to hang our hat on was that we're not gonna get outworked. Nobody's gonna outwork us. Now you might have us in the talent department, but you're not going to outwork us.
One of the seasons that I want to ask you about that comes to mind, that's one that still hurts me to this day, is the talent of the 2001 team. There were so many close games. There's so many games that I was like, we're going to win it. We're going to win it. And it seemed like that we let some games slip away. I know that where there's a lot of Pirate victories, but that's one of the 96 season. I was upset because we go 8-3, as people heard a million times on the podcast. We don't make a bowl, which was ridiculous. And then the 2001 season, we're going 6-5. And then let's not even talk about the Marshall game. But it's like there's so many people don't realize that it could be one play, a couple plays here and there, that how it decides a football game. And it just seemed like that season, I don't know. Do you have any insight on that about, I know it's a team sport, so it's not tied, but is there something there that maybe you could say, go about looking back on it, retrospect, that maybe y'all could have done differently?
I don't know, Dave. I tell you, it's just, it was crazy, because that's my senior year,
Yeah.
Dave and I know all the seniors, Purnell and, all those guys, man. It was just, we couldn't put a finger on it, man. I mean, because we had an opportunity to be the winner this class. If we would have finished that year like we were supposed to have finished that year, we could have been the winningest class in East Carolina history. But we came up, it was almost like a snowball effect. Like when something bad would happen, something else would happen, and something else would happen. You just start seeing it happen, and we just like, here we go. So here you go.
Remember that? Yeah, crazy stuff happened inside the games too, Bubba. You remember it was earlier on the season that year. Was it the second or third game when the one of the officials had a heart attack on the field at Syracuse? Do you remember that?
I'd forgotten about that, Dave, but now that you say that, I do recall that happening. I couldn't have told you which game, but yeah, I remember that.
It was like, I'm just saying, there was crazy stuff inside not only the football game, but like things like that you would never imagine that could. I mean, I know they're possible, but you never think that they would ever happen, inside of a game. And then I remember the house I'm in right now. This is the house I grew up in. And where I am right now, I was watching the game right here in the living room, right over here. I'm watching the game. We're up big, right? And my mom said, this is terrible to say on the podcast, but she said, son, you need to go to bed. You need to go to bed. The Pirates are way up. I said, Mom, you've never watched any football games. I said, we're Pirates. We got to watch the whole game. I said, anything can happen. And I was like, I still to this day wonder, did I jinx the game? Because I was like, not that I thought we had it made, but I was like, I felt good about the game. And what was it? I thought was a 30-point lead at one point in that game. And then I think that's one of those games. Marshall, we have that. Speaking of which, by the way, we haven't talked about that, but would they move the Marshall game tied to September 12th? It was supposed to be August 29th. They did that officially today. One of the worst kept secrets in Pirate football history. But that Marshall game is, to me, very important. And we've had guys on the podcast, but that's a perfect example of a game that I feel like they stole. I know they had good players. I'm not knocking their players, but that was our night. And I really felt with you guys, I just felt like they stole one from us. That's a perfect example of, like I said, isn't that par for the course for the season? Like how it ends, like it hurts. It hurts. There's certain games like that still hurts me and haunt me to this day. And I didn't even play the game.
Well, I tell you that game, I think it stung a little more for me, being the fact that I knew that was the last time I was going to strap it up with my brothers again. And it was a hard one, though. I probably set my locker for probably 30, 40 minutes before I even took my gear off, and I just kind of soak up the moment, knowing that, this is the last time I'm going to be in the locker room in this setting with these men, that I bled with, I fought with, I've gone to war with on the field. And I wouldn't have done with no other people. But, like I said, I can't put a finger on it. I don't know what it was. We just came up short. I want to say in those games we lost that year, the 6 games we lost, was probably a total less than probably 15 points, all those games combined. I mean, it was just, we were right there knocking on the door, and it's just we couldn't finish. Now we started fast. I mean, we probably scored the most points in the first quarter in the country. We started fast, we started great, but we just couldn't finish. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Yeah, like you said, the North Carolina game that year, we had a 10-0 lead, really clicking on all cylinders. And I remember that's what Art Brown unfortunately had that ball stripped from behind that became the touchback, and just had some things like that. It seems like there was just a phantom holding call on Brian Remp for somebody, and it came back a 75-yard touchdown pass that David had, and just things like that. Some which we could have prevented, and some things that we just had going against us. But I think it was like 24-21 that day.
Yes, it's hard being a Pirate, man. Hard being a Pirate, but like I said, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Ty, the good thing is that you guys won a lot of games, and we're very proud of you and proud of the guys, the men and women that play for East Carolina. And I tell you what, I think it was Mitchell Galloway the other night was talking about, and it's true, like no matter what sport it is, if it's Tiddlywinks and it's the Pirates, we're going to be there supporting you. Just like Dowdy Ficklen's going to be rocking again. And I believe it's probably going to be 21. But if it's this year and we can have fans and we have a great season, we haven't played the games yet, so you never know. But I really believe the program is heading the right direction. And, as far as the bowls are concerned, that's something that we used to take for granted. And now here we are going, man, we hadn't been to a bowl in so long. It could be any bowl, fill in the blank bowl, and we'll be there.
You're right. A bowl game, like I said, a bowl game is I hear some people's take on it where they'll say, well, I don't know why there's so many bowl games. And I'll be like, hey, listen, unless you've been there, you can't really speak on it, man. That's an accomplishment for those teams to be able to go to those bowl games and play. That's something to be proud of, to be able to say, man, though we might be 6-6, okay, but we were the best. We're better than 4 or 5 other teams that possibly could have been here. But to me, it's an honor. It's an honor to play in a bowl game, and like I said, and have another opportunity to play with your teammates one more time. Especially for the seniors. Just one more time is to strap it up and play with your brothers.
How was it as far as the Astrodome? That actually was. I know it's not there anymore, obviously, but it's one of those iconic. I'm not a fan, and I'm maybe old school. I'm not really a fan of the domes. So, but how was playing in the Astrodome?
Cold, I remember. But it was, we were so locked in. We could have played on an iceberg, and it wouldn't matter. We were there. it was a business trip, and that's just how we looked at it. We were there to handle business. We wanted to get a win, send our seniors out. That's my junior year, so we wanted to send our seniors out right. And we were there for business, man. And like I said, it showed in that game. The Marcellus Harrises and the Jamie Wilsons and those guys, man. We wanted to play hard for those guys and send those guys out on the right foot. The Mark Yelicks, all those guys, man. We really wanted to play hard for those guys.
And Ty, that comes to mind. I hadn't thought about it. So you guys went in your career 3 out of 4 years. You went to a bowl.
Yes, sir.
Wow, I've never thought about it. I've been following Pirate football for a long time, but that's impressive. I'll tell you one thing, with the way we have things coming up, a 6-5 season looks great for us right now. Our actually we have 10 games, so currently, so maybe if we're 6-4 or something like that, or 5-5 would be a great accomplishment for our program. But I'll tell you one thing, I can't wait till we get back to the point when that's not good enough. Right now, that's a huge accomplishment for us to do that. But to me, I've always said, I don't know how you feel, Ty, but Pirate football to me is 7 to 9 wins in that range. Anything else, the 10, 11, 12 would be a miracle season. But if you can get 7 to 9 wins, that's Pirate football, in my opinion.
I totally agree. I think the standard, that's the standard, if not more. 8, 9 wins, that should be the standard, especially the talent that's come through that place. And now that East Carolina, the facilities. I mean, man, the facilities, they can compete with anybody in the country. I went down last year to the A&T game. Of course, the game was rained out. They played that Sunday. So, but we had to get back, so we missed the game. But just to go,
you didn't miss anything.
Yeah. But just to be able to go in those facilities and see how things have changed just from the time that I was there. And I was like, man, this place is absolutely. I was in awe. I was in awe with the place. I mean, it's everything, the baseball facility, and I had an opportunity. I get to speak to Coach Godwin every now and then. He and our classmates as well. He was actually playing for ECU when we were there together, and who's now the head baseball coach, but another good guy. And so it's just, man, the place. There's no more excuses. Where before. Our facilities, man, people be like, well, I don't know, because there was some hangups for some guys. I don't know if they like their facilities. We ain't have, dude, let me tell you something. We used to run in the dark on a track, and the coaches would pull their cars up to the track and cut their headlights on. So that's how it was when we were there. So these guys now, they have 3 and 4 practice fields. One's artificial turf, one's real grass. We didn't have all that.
Hey, Ty, I want to ask you, one of the things Coach Houston talked about today was supposed to be really bad weather. Turned out to be one of the best days we've had in fall camp so far. He's talking about the unpredictable parts of eastern North Carolina weather. I want to get your opinion. You were talking about facilities. One of the things that Bubba and Kyle and I love, and most Pirate fans want for our players and the amenities, one of the things is an indoor practice facility. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm a man without a country on that. Not really. I've got some brothers here on the podcast, but how do you feel about that? You were talking about facilities. I feel like it's not a luxury. As Dave Hart said, it's a necessity.
It's a must-have. There are going to be times where it's going to be so freaking hot outside where you can't practice. But guess what? When you have a facility that's air-conditioned, now you can still practice. You can still do your install, get your workouts in. And then you have those inclement weathers where, hey, we have hurricanes, in North Carolina. We have, it gets cold. The cold there is different than the cold, where I grew up in Hickory, because the cold in Hickory is coming off the mountain, but the cold down there is coming off the ocean. So it's a different kind of cold, so to have those facilities, it's important. I think it's the next evolution in what East Carolina football is trying to become. Because again, you have a lot of these kids now that are being recruited. Facilities is what they need. They feel like they need to have. Because see, like when I came through, you got these kids now where they're calling each other and they're ganging up together. Hey, listen, let's go to East Carolina. Go over and do this. Well, we didn't do that when I came through. When you got recruited, you played. When you met the guys, hey, these are your teammates. But these guys now, man, like I said, they're teaming up, and if you got great facilities, you got a great, you have a great program going, they'll come.
No question about that. We didn't have back in our day, Ty. We didn't have social media, did we?
No, sir.
I'm glad we didn't.
Right.
Downtown Greenville. I'm glad we didn't. Speaking of which, did you have some?
Now,
We'll get back
Ty,
to football. I was going to ask you, did you have
yeah,
some
Ty,
favorite
earlier
places?
when
Sorry, Bubba, there's a lag. I was just asking Ty. Were there favorite places like restaurants, different places you like to go back in the day in Greenville?
Man, let me tell you something. Red Lobster, they hated seeing us when they had all you can eat crab legs. We'd walk in about 10 or 12 deep, and they'd see us, and they'd just be shaking their head. I'm like, yep, you know what we come for. So we'd wipe them out every time.
We had about that's funny you mentioned that about obviously non-football players. That Pizza Inn on 10th Street. I'm sorry, Greenville Boulevard near 10th Street.
Yeah.
We used to go there, and the manager hated us. So it was about 8 or 10 of us that would go there, and we would wipe out the buffet. we would have eating contests to see who could eat the most slices of beef. Dumb stuff that you do at like 18, 19 years old.
Right. Same thing. We had a place like that. It was another little place like that. I forgot the name of it. It's like a little Italian pizzeria we used to go to, and man, we'd go there and like just the defensive line, it'd be probably 8 or 9 of us, and we'd eat 15, 16 pizzas. I mean, we'd drink probably 15 gallons of soda. I mean, it was just man, we were putting it back, man. We was putting it back.
Hey, Ty, how about that training table, right?
Yeah, training table was real, man. I'm gonna tell you, and the beef barn, man, I love that place.
Yeah,
I love that place. Norris, that's where they took us on our recruiting visit when I first met Norris, and I never forget. Norris sat down across from my mom and my uncle and myself, and Norris had 2 porterhouse steaks and 3 lobster tails, and he ate them all right in front of my mom. And my mom just looked at him, and she's like, son, is he going to eat like this? Pointing at me. He looked at my mom. He said, yes, ma'am. And so it just and that's how it happened. I mean, I literally went from to my freshman year, I was 215 pounds maybe, and by the time I graduated, I was hovering around 290.
Wow, that's insane.
Yep. Now, Ty, a good family friend of ours, that's what he played for Sonny Randall back in the early 70s. And I know he and some of his teammates went to Parker's Barbecue, and they got cut off from the all-you-can-eat. And they said take them all the hush puppies and sweet tea they want, no more barbecue and potatoes, etc. And then also we had on J.T. Boyd, who played offensive line from 2012 to 2016. And he said that some of them got cut off at the all-you-can-eat wings, I believe it was. So, did you guys ever get cut off with the? Okay.
Yeah. Because see, the thing was this. They would have those special nights. Why do you not think that we're going to show up? You talking about we're coming. You talking about? And see, back then they had 20-cent wings. That's going to show how long ago it was. 20-cent wings. Like what? And man, my mom gave me a little stipend. Then she'd send me $40 a week. To kind of do what I want to do with. That's where most of my money would go, just the eating. Man, I just love that place.
Yeah, no doubt. In fact, back then when BW3s was actually back in our I'm right before you there. I graduated in '95, and that literally came. I'll never forget that BW3s opened up December of '94.
Wow.
And it was a few weeks before Christmas because it was cold. You were talking about cold. It was cold as all get out. And those pirate beverages tasted a lot better when it was cold. Extra cold, like frost on the mugs, different stuff like that they had. And I remember that was one place I remember that was just the fire marshal. I'm glad the fire marshal didn't come. They would have shut them down. It was like you had to fight your way to get in. And once you got in, you had to fight just to move through that bottom, not the top part of the second floor, but that bottom floor. It was so many people in there. Good Lord. I'm glad it was never a fire in there.
I'm telling you, what we used to do is they kind of knew, like some of the guys, we get there early and we'll start, kind of using our weight and reserving tables upstairs and stuff. So we'd have the whole section would be just like just football players. You see football players. We had a couple of basketball guys. They come hang out with us. And man, we'd sitting there all night laughing and eating and drinking and just having a good time, man. We had some good times in that place.
Yeah, I miss the '90s downtown. The downtown now is great as far as a lot of things, but when I'll just say this is mean for me to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Down Fifth Street is supposed to be a college town. You need to have bars. I'm just saying you need to have bars, and I don't understand why I'm in my 40s and I don't have a problem now. 20 some years later, 25 years after I graduated, I have no problem with the college kids having the bars because that's part of college life.
That's the experience. That's part of the college experience. Like you said, they have bars, man. And then too, when people come in town for games and things like that, they want to. I mean, if you want to make money, I mean, you want to have those kind of things there, and you will make a killing because that place is beautiful now. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous over there, and that's the only thing they're missing.
Yeah, and how about I was telling Bubba today, going to work, I was driving. It's amazing when you drive. If you get a chance when you come back. And when we're going to be winning a lot, I'm sure you'll come back more and more and more. But drive up and down 10th Street and see the changes on 10th Street from the way that we were there. It was more similar to our time because I was in the early mid 90s and you're right after me. But look at the way the things differences. There's no more Wendy's on 10th Street. I was telling Bubba, no, that's where the student center is. The student center is unbelievable.
So
you got to see this.
Spread it out.
Yeah, they basically tore down that Wendy's and there's like a whole, it's almost, how long is that, Bubba? Is that like a block? Would you say a city block? That's a big building.
Yeah, wow. It's a big building.
But
you remember where that? And then was it the Miami Grill?
Miami Subs.
Miami Subs is now Arby's.
Oh man. Miami Subs. That was the place, man. After the club, that's where we go. Miami Subs.
Hey, Ty, it's the only place I know, a fast food place, and they had Dom Perignon. I was like, Dom Perignon. It's like you having champagne, $100 a bottle. I'm like, dude, I'm a poor college kid. How can I afford $100 bottle of champagne? Are you kidding me? I'm here for the subs. I'm not here from the champagne. Oh my God. But where Hank's homemade ice cream in that pantry used to be, they've torn that down, and it's a huge student housing. It's like, it looks like they're like skyscrapers now. All the student housing, like $1,000 a month. Like I'm going. My kids want to go there to ECU. Bubba and I are probably going to have to start 10 or 15 businesses to pay for our kids' college coming up in the next decade. But we have kids about the same age, and maybe we can get our kids to live together or something, Bubba, and buy a house. I don't know, but $1,000 a month, dude. $1,000 a month for housing.
Man, I remember my apartment. I lived in Brown, right off of my first apartment was Tar River State. Yeah. I lived over there, and I think our rent was like $700, right around there, something like that, split between two people. So I mean that was nothing, But man, now when I was there, I think there was about 18,000 students there when I was there. How many are there now?
Well, it's virtually the same. Okay. Because if you're talking about going to class like we had, that's about it's 18, 20 range. But if you count and I'm not knocking my school, just being real. If you count the online, the distant learning, as they call it, distance learning, that we're at 30,000. But like I'm not knocking it. I think it's fantastic. We have 30 grand as far as the number of kids, number of people and the degrees and all the buildings. And that's one thing I was telling Bubba. It's like, I know it's state supported money, but there's a building they're building. You remember where Szechuan Gardens used to be? I love that. The Chinese place, it was on Evans and 10th.
Yep.
That's been torn down. It was a parking lot. Now they're making this huge, I'm trying to think of the name of the building, what kind of building it is, but there's a huge building going up there and there's all these student housing. And then, I was like, we need to take that, and for former players and for all of us that are Pirate Club members, we've got to step up. We've got to have the facilities. Terry Holland, I believe it's fair to say he got things up to par. But we got to keep that going. We're East Carolina, and I'm hoping, I say it all the time, but we're big time And I want everybody, if you're part of Pirate Nation, treat ECU like it's big time. Because I'm sorry, I had the best years of my life there. I'm proud of our everything about it, including our mascot. I think our mascot, I mean, who wouldn't want to be a pirate? I mean, that's
Right.
you know, and the fact that I'm always been an underdog. So I went to the perfect school. And that's why when we win those games, they can say that it's our Super Bowl. They can talk all the trash in the world they want to. But, have you noticed that we beat ECU's beat UNC 3 times in a row and they still won't schedule us? We the only give Wake Forest credit. They've come back on the schedule. NC State's back on the schedule. Appalachian State's on the schedule. Charlotte's on the schedule. Right now, the only 2 that we don't have is Duke and UNC on the schedule. Right, Bubba, of the Division I? If my memory serves.
Yeah, like
On the
you're
schedule
saying,
right now, Duke and UNC are the only ones.
Yep, we got Charlotte, we got App State, and then like you're mentioning, I think Wake Forest is 26 and 27, and then we have 3 more games scheduled with NC State, I believe.
Yeah, so you see the teams that are willing to play us, but we got to schedule. We got to keep the scheduling going. We got the BYU's of the world. We got the Boise States on there. We got a lot of Virginia Tech is too scared to play us because they know they're going to get beat. That's why they came off the schedule. I have friends and family that are Virginia Tech. I love the school. I just don't understand their problems they have right now. But I think that might have been some of our previous administration issues as well. But anyway, hopefully we can get them back on the schedule. But we were talking. I wanted to ask you that question. What were games that you had? And I know we're going long here with you. I appreciate your time so much. What were some teams that you think should be back on the schedule? Maybe that you played that. When you were talking about Syracuse, I love Pitt. I mean, I'll play anybody. I'm like what Coach Godwin. You're talking about Coach Godwin. You know why I love Coach Godwin? I know you have that mentality. He said, anytime, anywhere, any place, we'll play. If it's a parking lot, behind the building, whatever. And so I'm that mentality. We'll play. We're going to play Michigan at the Big House in a couple of years. We'll play anybody on the road. We'll take you at home. But what are some teams that you think we should have on the schedule that maybe you had or maybe you've always wanted to see us play?
I tell you, one of the funnest games I think I ever played in was South Carolina at South Carolina. Lou Holtz's first home game.
Yeah,
and we smacked him in the mouth. And that was a great game. That game was fun for me. I was trying to think of another game that was really, really fun. I got to play in. Syracuse is always a fun game. Because for us, like I said, a lot of counter traps, things of that nature. That's a defensive lineman's dream if you study properly, because there's rules to playing in the trenches when you got pulling guards and things of that nature. If you're getting in the hip pocket and run with them, a lot of times the pulling guard coming across to kick you out, you can literally run right past him. He wouldn't know you behind him if you get in the guard of the hip pocket of the pulling guard. So man, I made a few plays in the backfield just studying my keys, taking me right to the play. So teams like that was always fun. I wouldn't mind seeing the Pirates play. What's another time I want to see the Pirates play? I wouldn't mind seeing Pirates get out here and get on Georgia Tech or somebody, man. Get on Georgia Tech, man, and get on Georgia. Hey, I drive to Athens, of course, right downtown Atlanta, Georgia Tech. So come on down here and jump on some of these Georgia people down here, man.
Hey, coming out October, we have Georgia State. You better be there, man. We're going.
We're actually some of the guys we had talked about it, trying to get together and do something, because they said, man, we're gonna be in your place, Freaky Ty. I'm like, hey, man, hit me up, let me know. Let's get together. Let's go ahead and get the where we're gonna be, tailgate and do whatever. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that.
Have you heard anything down there as far as has Georgia State put anything out there? Okay, we may have 20%, or we may be playing without fans, because obviously they're in the Sun Belt, and the Sun Belt still plans to play football at this point.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything per se from them. Like I said, I got my fingers crossed. I hope they do. But then again, even if that's at that point, it's not going to be the same. I'm almost kind of wishing we could fast forward 2 years from now and play them again, and we're kind of back to normal. some kind of normalcy. This is just so, it's just so strange to see even now, like watching a professional baseball game with cardboard sitting in the seat, man. It's just strange. It's strange, man. Like we're in times right now. Like it's just strange. What is going on? Now I love the game. I love to watch it, but to not see the interaction, to see those kids sitting there eating their popcorn and with ice cream on their face, and people. That stuff, man. That's a part of it. I just miss it, man. I don't know, man.
Kind of a random question for you, Ty. This is what I started to ask you earlier when I was having the internet issues. We've had this guy on the show at least a couple times. He's doing big things in the state of North Carolina now, down around where he was from, and that's Tabari Wallace. He was a senior when you were a redshirt freshman, or Snoop, as you guys called him, Snoop Wallace. But Tabari is quite the character. I mean, he's been on ABC, all kinds of national news stations, talking about everything he has going on down there at West Craven High School, I guess it is. And so just talk about Snoop. And I told Snoop, I said, if there's ever a movie about you, it has to be played by Chris Tucker, because something about Snoop Wallace and Chris Tucker, and they remind me of one another.
I tell you, man, Snoop, man, what better person to be in the position that he's in? Everything that man has, he deserves, because he has worked his rear end off, and couldn't happen to a nicer person. I mean, even when Snoop was a senior and I was a freshman, he never treated me like a freshman. The first thing I remember seeing him, when I first saw him, he's one of the first defensive guys I saw. And I was like, man, coming from high school, I'm like, man, defensive backs are this big? I mean, and his calf muscles at the time were about as big as my head. And I was like, I just couldn't get over his size of a defensive back, at the time. But just a great guy, a great human. He's obviously his infectious being is rubbing off on these young people, which is so important. And like I said, what better person?
The North Carolina Principal of the Year. I mean, he's big time. But that you guys are, that's again the thing that I love about a lot of Pirate players that we've had on, is that you guys are winner on and off the field. We don't, for the most part, I know there's players here and there, unfortunately, that have gone through tough times. Maybe they'll learn from their mistakes. But for the most part, it's like 99% of you guys, I would say, because I'm trying to be fair and objective. But I feel like the 99% of you guys have turned out really well, and it's really cool. In fact, I would love to see it where we have, I've said this, maybe the spring game. I know other programs do it. I hope Coach Houston will. He's had open door policy. But I'm talking about the spring game. I would love to see as many football players as we can get there. I want to see the spring game mean something like it used to back when I was growing up, and then my college days. And they're trying. I give the new administration credit. They are trying to do different things. So I'm hoping that we can make that it's not an event like it used to be.
I would love to be a part of that. I would love to bring my son down and let him be a part of that. Let him see what Daddy used to do, and let him get the smell of the atmosphere and see the atmosphere. It's different. My wife, she had the opportunity. Well, I had the opportunity to take her down for homecoming several years ago, and let her see it, and just kind of, because my wife, she's a Marquette graduate, and so of course, being in Milwaukee, they don't do it quite like we do down in good old Eastern North Carolina.
So I have an idea. You were talking about your son is really good at baseball, and you went to school with Cliff Godwin. Oh, by the way, I'm sure he's a great baseball player, and you've got a connection right there, being one of your classmates. And I mean, you'll never hear me say, until I'm proven wrong, you'll never hear me say, and I never second guess Cliff. Love the guy. And when you always talk about a Pirate, he's another example of a guy that's a great athlete. He walks the walk, he talks the talk. And if there's right now with the coaches we have, for my son and daughter, I can honestly say whatever sport they want to go, there's not a coach that would go, yeah, you probably don't want to go to East Carolina right now. That coach, I don't like him, or, for values or whatever, morals or whatever, or they're not a good coach. But right now, top to bottom, I mean, side to side, like you're talking about side to side, I think we got a lot of great coaches, and man, Cliff Godwin is amazing.
He really is, and I reached out to Cliff several months ago, because like I said, I didn't play baseball growing up, so I'm as my son, as he learned, I'm learning, for a lot of things. So, and I find myself on YouTube researching and watching a lot of baseball stuff, from Tony Gwynn, different things to watch, to try to help him with different skills to do. So I reached out to Cliff, man. I sent him a couple of videos on my son. I said, man, I said, tell me what he needs to work on. Give me some drills that I can put him on, to help him out, a little bit. And man, Cliff is always just he's an open book, man. A big heart. He said, man, work on this, work on that, man. He's gonna be okay, man. He's just don't try to rush him. He's only 8. Let him kind of just come into his own and see where he goes from there. And he's developing. Now he's my son's starting to pitch a little bit now, so he's learning the art of pitching. So he's loving it though. He is loving and is in love with baseball.
And let's talk about
there's some videos on talking about Cliff Godwin, Austin Knight, who's our volunteer assistant. Obviously, that position is largely funded by the camps that East Carolina has, and folks who are familiar with Division I college baseball understand that. And when everything that happened with COVID hit back 5 months ago, they were trying to figure things out for Coach Knight, and they were able to produce, some instructional videos to generate some income for him.
Yeah, we watched some of those. Actually, we watched a few of them. Got a few pointers off of there, especially with some of the swinging drills that we watched on there. So I keep up with Cliff online on a few things in that program too. He had told me about, and a lot of great information. I was able to spill into my son.
Let's talk about your life now with the police work. It's funny, like you talk about during your era, there's a lot of guys in the Logan years that became police officers. You're a police officer in Atlanta. Man, what a tough assignment there. Can you talk about maybe your beat or what you're doing there with police work there in the ATO?
Sure. Well, now I started policing right at the end of 2002. So I'm pushing.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm right at 18 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So 18 years in almost, and I'm right now I'm assigned to the airport. So if you ever fly through, I'm on international side. So if you come through international, you'll see me bopping around there between the hours of 7 and 3. But it's a cool assignment. I get to see a lot of different people. I get to run to a lot of celebrities. So now, like I said, now I'm kind of on the downtick now of my career as a police officer. Once you start getting to that 15 plus year thing, you start kind of winding down a little bit. My days of running down criminals and stuff, those days are over. The bad knees, the extra weight. Those days are over.
So if we go to like Old Paris or we go to London or whatever, and we fly through there in Atlanta, one of the busiest airports in the world.
Sure.
So the international side. So if you're a pirate, make sure that you fly and you go on the international flights. You go there and you can get a picture with Ty. I'm sure you'll tell them go Pirates. That's one of the things that's really cool. So are you planning, you don't have to tell us, but do you have in mind how many more years you want to be an officer?
I don't know. I'm kind of open for, whatever may possibly come. But at the same time, too, we probably have one of the best pensions in the state. So with that, 12 more years of service, and I'll get to tap onto that at a good clip. So I'll be setting myself up pretty well, So some things, but at the same time, something else comes along that's tempting and something that really piques my interest. It's possible.
Well, the time has flown tonight. I can't believe I'm looking up an hour and 24 minutes talking to you, but it's a lot of fun. You guys are I want to thank you personally. I know there's a lot of people in Pirate Nation that I speak for. Thank you for all that you gave, all the sacrifice. We were talking earlier about the blood, sweat, and tears. And that's one of the things that hurts me is watching the games, knowing how many great men this particular with football or whatever the sport may be for the ladies too. And you think, man, they went through all those, like you were talking about earlier, and we got to get this program. We are headed in the right direction. But thank you for being on, and I hope that we can get a lot of you guys. It would be great to maybe we can do a show some point there on the tailgate fields. But love to have you guys back, and we'll show them what the guys in the '90s did, right?
That's right. That's right, Dave. I appreciate you for having me. Bub, I appreciate you, buddy, for contacting and reaching out to me, man. Anything I can do to help Pirate Nation, especially, somebody just giving, my insight, share some of my stories. May affect someone in a good way or not, but just to be able to share and be here and be seen. And hey, it was cool, man. I really appreciate this.
And last question, how can people follow you? Do you have like social media?
You can follow me. I'm on Facebook, Ty Hunt. You see a bunch of pictures of family, fishing, hunting, baseball.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, I'm on Facebook.
A good guy, a guy that we can drink a beer with, Bubba, for sure.
Yes, sir.
Bubba, I was just going to say, Ty, we appreciate you coming on, and when we're playing football again, we'll definitely have you on our Pirate football playback that we do on either Saturday or Sunday, depending on the time of the game, and taking a look back at that week's game. And we'll definitely, if not before, we'll certainly do it for the Georgia State game.
Sounds good, Bubba. I like it, man. Let me know. Just like you have my information, hit me up on Messenger, man, and I definitely I'm willing. I'm game.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, Ty. Appreciate you very much, and what a thrill to have you on. And thanks again for all that you did for the Pirates.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you very much. 50 Pirates in 50 days. Appreciate Ty Hunt. He's sporting that Braves jersey for Bubba. Bubba is a huge Braves fan. I can't blame him. That's a great organization throughout the years, and makes me miss whenever I see those. Hey, Bubba, I'll tell you this. Whenever I see those Braves uniforms, it makes me miss them being on TBS, all those games you could watch. And I know that was yesteryear and they don't have those super stations anymore, but that was some really good times with the baseball. So did you have anything before we go, Bubba?
No, just kind of piggybacking off what you're saying there as far as the Braves growing up. Then the Braves were my dad's team, so I got it naturally. And I remember when I was growing up watching the Braves in the mid to late 80s, they were very bad. I mean, they were losing 80, 90,
a whole bunch of
100 plus games a season, some seasons, and nowhere near being in a pennant race. And, some games they would probably have no more than 3,000 or 4,000 people there at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium.
I was there.
So when they have 15 or 20, I mean, me understandably as a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid think, hey, that's a big crowd. But, it was just because the standard was set so low, the bar was set so low from those other games. But, the 90s, things turned around and had the opportunity to go to a game. I guess it was that same year, the Peach Bowl. So I was 10 years old and got to see my favorite player, even though he was on the wrong team at that point. He was playing for the Phillies, Dale Murphy. And a lot of I wish I knew how many nights we spent growing up sitting on our couch in our den, eating on a TV tray, watching the Braves on TBS or Sports South.
No doubt, and definitely great to watch. Certainly hockey, and we have right now the NBA, and we have Major League Baseball, NASCAR. We do have some sports out there. And by the way, folks, if you just tuning in, the Marshall game officially, if you have not heard, has been moved from August 29th to September the 12th, is what we had heard a couple weeks ago. So it's official now. So if you're planning on coming to Greenville, we've had people ask us over and over again on Facebook. It's definitely September 12th. It was announced today. Want to let everybody know that we have a great 50 for 50 Pirates in 50 days that you can watch or archived on here on Facebook and, of course, on our YouTube channel. And we also have them, Bubba, this year. We have them not only as SoundCloud, but also Anchor. So if you're looking for 50 Pirates in 50 days, and also for our fall camp for the practices and the scrimmages, we also have the practice report on SoundCloud and, of course, on Anchor as well.
Yep. Those practice reports, like you mentioned, we've had media availability 9 different times. So we have all of those for you. I guess technically 7 practices and 2 scrimmages, if you will. So definitely go check those out. They're all in a playlist. It's just East Carolina Football 2020, and promoting next week's content. Tuesday and Thursday will be our traditional podcast. And traditional from the standpoint that it's not 50 Pirates in 50 days, but they will be here on Facebook as well as our YouTube channel. On Tuesday, we'll be talking to Brian Bailey, who's just such a legend and a fixture in the sports business. I mean, sports anchor, sports director there at WNCT for all those years, going back to the mid '80s or so. And then the second part of that hour on Tuesday at around 7:30, we'll catch up with Chris Hughes, who does such an excellent job with Carolina Preps, and he's actually combined forces with Dina King from NC Preps. And so we'll talk to Chris, get his thoughts on Wednesday's announcement, not only about football, but just high school athletics in general. And whether you agree with it or not, they'll be playing 7 games starting there the first week of February. I think maybe February 8th or 9th, something like that, and going through early to mid-April prior to baseball season getting cranked up. So look forward to talking to Chris about that. And then next Thursday, we'll have a first-time guest, Scott Francis, director of the East Carolina Alumni Association. We'll talk to him. I think he's been on that job about 2.5 years now, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll also catch up with Patrick Johnson of 94.3 The Game around 7:30 next Thursday.
Sounds good. And Bubba, I was just thinking about, never in my wildest dreams would I ever think that there would be high school football. My birthday is April the 14th. That that we could be at a high school football game. Or I don't know about the playoffs, but certainly right then and there, right near that. It's gonna be crazy. But anyway, thank you folks for everybody for coming on and watching tonight, and people that are watching our archived edition. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Bubba, thank you for all your hard work that goes behind the scenes. I know we're 50 Pirates in 50 days, and he and I work really hard, and Kyle's throwing in some stuff too with promotion, different things, but people don't realize how hard it is to do our podcast with our family and friends. So thank you so much to our families and friends for putting up with us, for doing the show for the Sports Objective. I appreciate you, buddy, very much for all your hard work.
Absolutely. We do it because we love the Pirates. 32 down, 18 more to come. And like you say, yes, we do talk about some current events, but for the most part, this content is evergreen. It will be good whether it's now or 10, 15
Correct.
years from now. It's going to be out there on YouTube and Facebook, and people can go back and check them out whenever they have the opportunity.
All right. Appreciate you, Bubba, again, very, very much. And we'll love for everybody to be back with us, like we said, on Tuesday, and watch all the 50 Pirates in 50 days. Appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you next time here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and go Pirates.